written an algorithm to learn to differentiate between a dog and a wolf. And so they fed this algorithm lots of pictures of dogs, and they said, that's a dog, that's a dog, that's a dog, that's a wolf, that's a wolf, that's a dog, etc. And then when they came to testing, it all went fabulously until they showed it a picture of a husky, and the algorithm very confidently announced that that was a wolf. Now, because they've written the algorithm, they could ask it, what information are you using to to actually differentiate between a dog and a wolf? What is the information that is specifying that difference? And the algorithm highlighted the snow in the background. So this picture here, for example, sky, not Snoopy, would be a wolf. And they were really surprised because they'd assumed that the algorithm would be using information like the shape of the ears or the snout or something around the features of the actual animal. But because they hadn't guided attention to that information in the first place, it had picked up on what was the most obvious difference. And most of the pictures of the wolves had snow in the background. So there's a couple of things there, I think, to think about from a coaching perspective. We all talk about making sure we've got representative learning environments, that they're not always the same. We're not doing too much repetition, so we won't get that accidental coupling of perception and action that's to non-specifying information, and other things that we can do. But for me, it just really made me think, okay, so our role as a coach, we do want to support this guidance. We do want to help people to, find out where to look to reduce some of those perceptual degrees of freedom initially. And where might that go? Or again, like I said, for equestrian and paddle sports, the first movement problem that needs to be solved by a beginner is to cope with being moved. So a beginner equestrian and a beginner paddler is going to be trying not to fall off or not to fall out of their boats, or surfers not to fall off the board. They're not thinking about how to maximize power and how to maximize movements, which an elite performer will be. So they're solving a completely different movement problem. And the information that they need is very different. So with these sports, people talk a lot about feel, and this being something normally elusive that people are born with or they're not. And feel is the ability to perceive information from your environment that's haptic mostly, or around your balance. So we've got that, it's ability to be able to balance. And my first thing that I coached was windsurfing. Hands up, I was a pretty terrible windsurfer. I was probably a pretty terrible coach. And the first thing that I remembered that I really noticed about the people I coached was that they had no idea where their bodies were. They didn't know where their feet were. They didn't know where their hands were, which wouldn't have mattered, but they were putting them in places that meant that they had no chance of actually balancing. So they wouldn't stand in the middle of the board, they'd stand on the side of it and fall off. And so what they need to do initially is just explore how their bodies interact with their environment. And I guess this is probably why a lot of the research shows that more bit of an internal focus, not only to start to be able to develop some kind of coordination pattern, but also to know how the world is affecting us. I think there's so much research to be done here, so I'm just exploring a couple of examples in this short time that we've got, and hopefully pique some curiosity. The other one that I'm interested in is, so the other sport that I've been involved with hugely is mountaineering and sea kayaking, both of which are sort of big exploration. Anyone who hasn't read this book, it's fantastic. I was given it by my line manager. I then handed the book with a little note to Alex, and I'm hoping it'll do its rounds. It's an incredible book, not written by Tim Ingold, but there's so much in there that's fascinating, and it crosses lots of boundaries. It also talks about getting lost and how people feel lost. And people talk a lot about feeling lost when there's too much information, or feeling lost when there's too little information, or where they're not sure where they are in space, or not sure where they are in a small space or in a big space. But one of the things that I always found fascinating. And there was a really unfortunate incident here in the Carneddau this spring, where a woman in her early 50s died, having gone out for a walk. And she'd learned to navigate with a very basic map, and by not getting lost or not going off the paths. What had happened is that poor weather, and she didn't recognize it. Oh. Yeah. Hey, I don't know how my sound is set up. Let's see. Sound is external. Sound is external. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, who wants to be host? I'm in a virtual conference on my laptop.
Oh.
So I just I got 2 Zooms going at once.
Woohoo.
Yes. So Rachel, do you want to be host so you can run all your things? Sure. Okay. So make you the host, and then you can make Karen the co-host if you like. How's that? Okay.
No, I could do that.
Okay. Karen, were you able to find the forms?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I'm good to load them into the chat as needed, or when we have others here. Okay, cool. So yeah, we just need a feedback at the end, and that helps us gather data. Cool. Okay. I will be over here. Text me if you need me.
Okay.
The feedback form does not ask for email address or name. And I don't
know.
I was
here, let me just
it just asked for department. Do you want to add that in there?
Sometimes people give different feedback when it is anonymous. So you could add
Okay.
I'm just making you a collaborator right now. Let's see. Make you a collaborator on that form.
What I was planning to do was to go ahead and put the registration link in there, and then they will have it that way. We will have it that way of who's attended, and then it can stay separate from the feedback form. I just didn't get that in the digest. So I wanted to be able to have a record of who attended.
Okay.
So we'll leave it and do it that way.
And I'm seeing in the digest, it doesn't say what time this is. So I don't know how many people.
You know, I put that, and somebody emailed me and asked about that, and I'm confused because maybe it didn't save right. I don't know, because you click on the calendar and then the time right next to it. So does it just not show any time?
Well,
just
the one
shows the
above
date?
us, the digest, the thing above ours also doesn't give a time. So I think there must be some thing
glitchy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know I did it, but it clearly didn't work.
We've got people here.
Hi, Jackie.
Go.
Hello.
Yeah, I just got message from Constance. She was going to attend, and then she's like, "Oh, I have students showing up for conference meetings, so she's not able to join us." Somebody else emailed me though and asked about the time, so they should be popping in here shortly as well. Jackie, it's been too long. How are you doing?
I am doing well, Karen. How are you?
Yeah. You know, it's Friday, I think, and that's always a good thing.
It is Friday, and today's my traditional day to stay home and grade. And I'm kind of glad because the wind is making me a little crazy today. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. So everybody, please go into click on this Nearpod link. I'm going to have to copy it in the chat over and over and over again as new people join in.
Okay.
You don't need a camera.
No worries, Erin. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting us know.
Trauma-informed teaching practice, no cameras needed. Right.
Hi, Marcus. It's Karen.
How's it going? How are you?
Doing well. Glad to have you here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rachel, you are hitting the hot topic, all right. I'm telling you. AI workshops, discussions everywhere. And
Right.
I have a colleague who keeps accusing me of being an AI zealot. I'm like, in no way, shape, or form am I, it's like I'm cautious at best. I don't know where you got that idea, but I guess he saw my name associated with with it. It just made assumptions all over the place. I'm like, no. And so I really appreciate what you're offering. And the idea of it of environmental non-conservation, that's a strong point to make. I really appreciate that you made that point from the last session.
But our students are using it, so clearly we can't ignore it.
Yep.
We
Agreed.
we need to at least know what it's doing and adapt our teaching accordingly. Okay. All right, so those who are arriving, thank you for being here. And there is a link in the chat that takes you to Nearpod, which is a very fun little tool that will let us collaborate together. It's fun because it makes it easy for us to add our thoughts together, and I can show you things and all that fun stuff. When you get in, you'll see a poll to ask you what your favorite thing about fall is. So go ahead and, answer it just to figure out Nearpod. All right. Are we all figuring out how Nearpod works? Everybody's doing well?
Yes.
Cool. All right, there you are. Okay, your answers are very different from my students' answers. They all voted for Halloween, and you all prefer orange and red leaves and cooler weather. Okay, and Thanksgiving. A lot of them also like Thanksgiving. Okay, cool. Awesome. So let's go and start with what is working well this semester in our courses. What is working? And then we'll move on to what's not working so well. So you can, at the bottom, there's a bar where you can type in responses. You can add images. You can add video and voice. I don't think I've ever used those options, but they exist. You can even add GIFs or GIFs, however you pronounce it. Students always make fun of me when I say GIF, even though that's the original creator's pronunciation. Awesome. Project-based learning is fun. Tweaking guidelines. Good, good. This semester feels very different than previous semesters, and I don't really know why. I think did somebody just join us? Okay, if you just joined us, there's a link in the chat so that you can see what we are seeing. Okay. All right, wonderful. I feel like too that I have students much more happy this semester. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, but the students do seem happier this semester, more into school.
Rachel, I wonder if it's because we've kind of shaken off the COVID blues and we're trying to find the new normal.
I mean, everybody still has COVID, so I don't know if it's that, because, you know, we're in a huge surge of COVID and all my students are sick. I don't know about you, but all my students are sick. So I don't know. I really don't know why this semester is so different. Yeah. Yes. Okay, awesome. All right, so now let's go to what we're concerned about in our courses. Mhm. Okay, so I think we can pretty much touch on all of these. I am kind of a
Rachel, will you put the link in again? I think Mike just joined us. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Mike.
yes. If you click on that link, you'll be able to see what we're all seeing. Oh, we've got more people. So exciting.
Jim had asked me about an email, so hooray, there he is. Just keep hitting that again and again.
Clearly people are seeing that students are using AI in their courses. All right.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Now I take a rather untraditional approach to late work that I have experimented with 1,000 different approaches over the years. And I found what works best for me is just don't ask for an extension, just take the extension. And I know for a lot of people that wouldn't work, but it's so much easier for me if I'm not getting a million emails of students asking for extensions. I'm just like, if you need more time, take it. I'm good. Which I know doesn't work for everyone. Okay. David, the link to the Nearpod is in the chat. But I've also tried things like a Google form for late, like asking for an extension with a Google form. That didn't work for me, but it works for other people. There's things you can do with like tokens and stuff. So if you know how to deal with late work is something that we want to have like a separate session on, we could totally do that. Maybe that would be fun. Okay. All right, we just had a whole bunch of people join us, which is exciting. If you click on that link in the chat, you should be able to bring up the Nearpod and see what we are all seeing. Okay, cool. So I don't remember what my next slide is. Oh, okay. I saw this this morning. Let you read it. So my goal for all of us is to be less miserable. I want all of us educators to be less miserable, and I want students to be less miserable. Because this stuff is making everybody miserable, right? If students are just being accused of using AI, and professors are spending all their time trying to catch students using AI, it just makes us all miserable, all of us. So I want us all to be able to find solutions that make us less miserable. All right, so maybe on a sheet of paper or somewhere, jot down, which assignments you're seeing AI being used on, or maybe you've got future assignments later this semester that you're worried students are going to use AI on. Write down, what is it you want students to get out of that assignment? What skills are they supposed to be practicing? Is it that you're trying to check that they've learned certain material, or is it more about skill building, or both? And was that assignment, if that's an assignment you've used in the past, was it working fine before AI, or were you already having issues with plagiarism or other kinds of cheating? Okay, so let's just kind of jot that down for ourselves. IU2, here in the chat is a link to a Nearpod so you can see what we're all looking at. Okay, and right now we're just thinking about what assignments are we seeing students use AI on, or we're worried that they're going to use AI on? What do we want them to learn from that assignment? And was that assignment working for us before AI? Is this just an AI issue, or was it previously also a plagiarism issue or other kind of a cheating issue with this assignment? Just in case. Okay, so we may or may not have this jotted down. So let's think about why students are using AI, right? Because if we can think about why they're using it, maybe we can prevent them from wanting to use it. Okay, so why do you think students are using AI for your assignments? So I think some common threads are it's seen as a time saving tool, which, a lot of our students do have, multiple jobs or children or elderly parents to take care of or athletics that's taking them on field trips every single weekend. So our students do have a lot going on, and sometimes they just literally don't have the time in their schedules. And so, they're running out of time. They might panic and be like, I have to turn this in. So maybe flexible due dates are a way that we can help with that a little bit. Time management though too. We always assume students have time management skills, but nobody ever teaches them that. High school does not teach students time management. And so when they're thrown into college, they don't actually know how to organize their schedule and plan their time and figure out how much time they actually have in a week. So there's some things we can do, maybe at the beginning of the semester, or maybe we need to be able to send them to support services to get that help, to know how to not panic and run out of time. Confidence in writing. This is a huge one. And this is also why students plagiarize, right? Because they aren't confident in their own writing. They think the AI can write better than them. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes they just really need more writing support. Okay, so that is something that we can help them with, whether ourselves in our courses or the writing center or some other way to support students. Using it to brainstorm, right? This is something that it's being advertised as a tool for, that it can come up with ideas for you. And maybe you're okay with your students doing that. I know professors have very different ideas about what is an okay use for AI. Some think, no, you should never use it at all. And some are totally cool with it as long as you use it in a responsible way. And there's lots of in between. Okay. And so sometimes they really don't understand the assignments. And that again leads them to procrastinate and run out of time. A lot of students, clearly are very afraid to ask their professors for help. I see this a lot, even though I am the nicest person on earth. Students, who are new to me often will say, I don't want to email my professors. Like somebody said that the other day, I worry about emailing my professors. And so there's that issue too, that students aren't necessarily comfortable asking for help for a lot of reasons that aren't their fault. And so they might just, again, turn to AI as this superhuman being that knows everything, which is very much not what it is, but that's what it's being advertised as. Okay. So there's some things that we can help with to avoid the use of AI in the first place. All right, so anybody have any strategies for preventing the use of AI or just plagiarism, right? A lot of us can just use the strategies we used for plagiarism previously for AI now. Yes, love it. My favorite thing. Okay, I'm an art historian. What's a live client? Oh, yes. Okay. We all know I love that. Mhm. Okay. And, I think big one here, just teach students what plagiarism is. Because a lot of the students really, they're told don't ever plagiarize, but they're really not told what it is. I had students once upon a time in like 2019 who were seniors saying that nobody ever actually taught them how not to plagiarize. And that in high school, if the plagiarism detector said it was less than 65% plagiarism, then they were cool. So really, just teaching students what plagiarism is and, why we need to not do it is such an important thing. And unfortunately, students aren't necessarily getting that information. I mean, I know my professors didn't actually tell me what plagiarism was in college and just threatened me with a 0. So yeah. Okay. So personal reflection is great. Applying the concepts, to real world applications or some kinds of projects-based learning, those kinds of things works really well. Okay. Scaffolding, breaking the assignments into teeny tiny parts, really helpful. Okay. Yeah, just having conversations with students about AI. That's what I started my semester this semester with, and it was really great. And I'm seeing that students this semester are using AI a whole lot less than they were last semester. And I think part of it is because we had that discussion week 1 about what it can do, what it can't do. Okay. Great. Yes. Okay. We'll definitely talk about grading and extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Some of you know that I stopped grading a long time ago. Students get grades. I just don't put them on their assignments. Okay. Oral examination. Yeah, there's other ways to kind of have students present their learning. Okay. Awesome. Some pitfalls. AI detection doesn't work at all. Probably never will work. Please don't use them. They not only don't work, but they discriminate against students who are neurodivergent. A lot of autistic students and professors are seeing their own writing flagged as AI generated. It also discriminates against students whose English is their second or third language. Multilingual students who you have different types of writing patterns, right? That might look like AI to these AI detectors, which do not work. So we don't want to do that. One thing that a lot of people say is, well, we're just going to do all of our essay writing in class now with no computers. Now, by all means, if this is something that you already incorporate where, 20 minutes a week, you have students writing in class or something like that, by all means, keep doing that. However, having it where, you come to class and you sit and you have to write within, an hour your essay and you turn it in and that is a huge accessibility issue for a lot of students. Some students, have mobility issues with their hands. Just writing without a computer just doesn't work for them. There's, dyslexia. There's students who just literally can't focus in an environment like that. Students who need more time, right? Our different brains work differently. And relying on disability accommodations through the Disability Resource Office is not a good solution because that is a huge disaster. It is very difficult to get those accommodations. Students have to jump through a lot of very expensive and timely hurdles. So it's really much better to design your courses from the ground up with accessibility in mind. But yeah, so these are some things to be aware of, that a lot of people are kind of saying, okay, no more technology then. We'll just do pen and paper. And that can cause issues for a lot of students. Okay. Okay, so what so far has been your policy for, if students do plagiarize accidentally, right? Accidental plagiarism is different than if you take another student's name and put your name on top, right? Accidental plagiarism is more like you copy and paste a few sentences from a website and don't cite your source, or you copy and paste and put it in quotation marks, but don't cite your source. Those kinds of things where clear students don't really know what plagiarism is. Okay. So what are we already doing with this kind of stuff? Mhm. So it looks like, okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's a cool approach, having an assignment about plagiarism. Okay, so it looks like most of us are already doing, then teach them what the problem is, have them rewrite, resubmit, which is a really good strategy. I mean, the one problem here is that if your workload then involves a huge, much more grading to do, because they're resubmitting over and over again, and the student's workload becomes really enormous because they're resubmitting over and over and over again. So that is something that I definitely want to think about when we are approaching things, is that having too much work is not good for us or for the students. It leads to none of us doing well. But no, I'm really glad that most of you are having students, revise and resubmit, because I think that is how they learn. That's making sure that they're actually learning. Okay, that's really great. And I think what I have next is the, example of the student who's taking the class because they have to and just wants to get the C, right? And that is the student where we can really run into issues with AI now, because it is so easy for students to just plug it into AI, get C-level work, learn absolutely nothing. Does C-level work all semester long, learn nothing whatsoever, but pass the class. My approach though, and I've been actually working on this before AI, you know, also just with plagiarism, because I do teach a lot of gen ed classes that are low priority for students, is all about revision. You know, it says needs revision. It doesn't even say the grade. It just says needs revision in Blackboard. And then they resubmit and it says complete, and over and over and over and over again. And then the student who just wants a C, once they see in Blackboard that they've got enough points for a C, they often just stop submitting stuff. And I'm okay with that. At first, the first few times you see that happening, you get kind of really offended. But I've come to accept now, okay, there are going to be students who just want this C. But at least this way with revising, I know that they practice skills and I know that they learn things. They still got the C, but they did learn stuff. And this kind of rethinking my approach has really helped me be less stressed out about those students. And it's really, really helped me. And it helps the students learn more. So that's what I've been doing. You don't have to do this approach, but that's what I've been doing after many years of experimentation. This is how Blackboard is set up in those courses. So it does just show, for me, you know, needs revision or complete. You can color code these if you want, so that, you know, the ones that say needs revision will pop out at you and you can kind of make sure that the students resubmit them. But all the students see in their My Grades is needs revision. Okay, and then it turns into complete. In this way, you know, I find that even those students who don't really care, they do this resubmission, they learn stuff. So that is really, really helpful for me. Okay, the other thing that I do that some of you do too, is I have students do self-assessments. This is my final reflection and self-assessment for the last end of the semester. I do this actually a few times throughout the semester, where students tell me based on what they're learning, what grade they think is appropriate. And this is a really good tool because, okay, with AI, you know, they can submit a bunch of stuff, but not learn anything. But if your grade depends on your learning, then the AI isn't going to help you that much. And so this is something that I've been doing for several years, and I love it. The responses that students put in here, sometimes it's, you know, not very deep, but sometimes they tell you really amazing things. And you see that they are learning so much more than you could have ever imagined, and it is awesome. So yeah, I'm a big fan of self-assessment, which again can make your life easier because you're not the one, you know, just making all the decisions. They also have to kind of be involved in the grading process as well. So this is one thing I do.
Rachel, interested. Can you, do you have a second? I just did that with a progress report on projects. And one group has failed to launch yet, and I big capital letters yet. I have faith and hope. We're only at the midterm, but the boat has landed in the water, but it's not pushed offshore, and there's a bunch of paddles with nobody holding them.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them, where are you at? How successful do you feel so far with your group? And that boat, someone in that boat who hasn't even gotten in that boat yet said, we are doing great. And I'm like, and I'm curious what kind of follow-up you might give to them to say, upon what basis do you rate yourself so highly when no one's gotten in the boat yet?
Yeah, I will say it's rare that students pull that move, but it does happen. I had a student like that last fall at the very end of the semester saying, I should have an A. And I was like, well, what? And, you know, at the end of the semester, I meet with all of my students briefly. Not everybody can do that. If you've got 1,000 students, you can't do that. Now that pandemic is finally having some effects on my course loads, I only have about 85 students. But so, you know, in that case, I was then meeting with the student and could be like, hey, come on. Based on what you've submitted, you know, you missed all these assignments. Does it really make sense? And he was like, immediately like, no, of course not. It doesn't actually make sense. So, you know, in that case, it was pretty easy to handle. I didn't get any pushback. And I think in the case like yours, where it was so blatantly untrue, that it wouldn't be particularly an issue. But yeah, you do get some, every once in a while, you get a student who does
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's not common. I agree, because and I would say what's more common is underrating, and
Yes.
particularly amongst women students that just are extraordinarily hard on themselves. And so I have to kind of say, well, what about this evidence and this evidence, you know? And so I find it the other case, but in this case, I've just chuckled, because I'm like, wow, you haven't even gotten in the boat. You haven't gotten a drip of water on you. And you're like, we're doing amazing work. I'm like, you haven't done any work. So
Yeah,
that's delusional, quite frankly.
Women, people with ADHD, and first generation students are all more likely to underrate themselves, for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So how do you all grade, and is it working for you? Okay. Okay. Yeah. The late work issue. For sure. And if you are really unhappy with your grading practices and you want to come hang out at the Center of Teaching and Learning and Leadership with me, I can help you with that. Okay. So it sounds like none of you are really having huge issues. Yes, your students are turning in mediocre work that may or may not be produced by AI, but you're having them revise and resubmit, and that's working. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the overload is an issue. And this was when I first started doing alternative assessment, and I was using an approach that I learned from somebody online. I did not take into account just how much work it was going to be for me, and I've had to adjust a lot. And that is something that we really need to keep in mind, our own workload. Okay, rubrics can be super helpful. Oh, yeah. Right, graduate school is mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. Don't have to assess everything. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so last thing I want to make sure us to talk about is some tips for making your workload more sustainable. Because, you know, the plagiarism stuff, the AI stuff, all of this, revising, resubmitting, rewriting, us giving tons of feedback of, you know, why this is not good writing or good work, or it doesn't make sense, even though it sounds nice, takes a lot more time. So unstuffing your course, that is a word that somebody coined. You know, if there's stuff that you can delete, fewer assignments, fewer readings, fewer things for you to grade, go for it. Please do. Plan giving yourself time for revision and feedback, and giving students time for revision. We often don't rely on our outside tools as much as we could. The Writing Center, if, you know, I have in the past required students to go to the Writing Center. I have also given extra credit for going to the writing center. And especially if you give them specific tasks to look at, specific things to work on, that helps a lot. And the same goes for talking to a librarian or with a gen ed tutor if you're teaching gen eds. This is something I really love, doing group feedback, especially video feedback. Students love video feedback. Where I say, okay, my kids both are throwing up this week. So instead of giving you all written feedback on your assignments, I'm going to read all of your assignments, take notes on what is at issue, and give you all feedback as a group. And students really like it. And it works for me when my kids are vomiting. This has happened multiple times. So that is one way that students like it, and it really saves you a lot of time. Peer review. I know we always talk about peer review and how it never works as we plan it out. I have had success though in upper division courses, and where I have very specific instructions for how to do it, like a worksheet where they can be like, okay, where is the thesis? Where is something that you don't understand? Very, very specific things for them to look for. And that worked really well in the upper division course, at least. Again, self-assessment, make the students do the work for you. And scaffolding, right, with very, very detailed instructions. And I've now been working on making a series of like video instructions for how to find feedback from your instructor in Blackboard, how to find, use the library catalog, just really short videos that I can, instead of, needing to type it all out to students 1,000 times a semester, I can just be like, here, this is how you do it. And that saves me a lot of time. Okay. So I do want to remind you that there is one-on-one coaching. If you want to hang out with me or one of the other people, other faculty fellows, we are there, second floor of the Lark, kind of the corner there. Can drop in or by appointment. There's people there. I'm planning, it's still unclear, something in a month about reducing your workloads. And in fun fact, educator well-being is trauma-informed teaching practice. So making sure that you are less miserable makes things better for your students. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing in a month, something like that. But do you have any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns that you want to share?
I want to draw people's attention to click on the link I posted just to give very, very quick feedback. We so appreciate your attendance today. Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. I hope it was a little bit helpful. And again, if you want to hang out with me, we can hang out. David, what's up?
No, I was going to tell a very interesting anecdote if you want, and if people got other better stuff to do, then by all means don't listen to me. But no, in class today, I teach music theory 5. It's junior level theory. And most of the students are in music history right before my class. And it turns out that these classes both go over the same time periods. So in my class, we're looking literally at the notes on the page, because that's what I do as a theorist composer. And then I joke, in music history, you'll talk about what the composer ate for breakfast, because that's what they talk about in music history, which is great. Well, their music history midterm is next week. So that's the class they're really worried about, right? And so I kind of gave today as a makeup day, or just a day to do catch up, because it's a 2-hour class. We don't always meet Fridays. So, and one of the students said, "Can we talk a little bit about music history, because they got their test next week and it's relevant to our discussion?" And I said, so here's the thing. Give me a second. This gets in the weeds for a second. So 16th century masses, if it's based on a melody and the melody appears in one voice, we have a term for that. And if the melody appears in all the voices, we have a different term for that. Now, I took my doctoral comprehensive exams 20 plus years ago. One of them is paraphrase and one of those is parody. And I'm going to admit to my colleagues, this is one of those moments that in my head, even when I think I have it right, I'm not 100% confident. I always have to go back and look which one is parody, which one's paraphrase. For whatever reason, I cannot get that straight in my head. And lo and behold, that's what they were asking about. And I kind of had this moment. I said, you know what? They're going to see me, and I'm going to admit this is one of those that I got to go back and Google, because I know what the two terms are, but I have always got to go back and double check myself. I just cannot commit this to memory for whatever reason. And I thought, you know, relative to AI, the real time that I know a student used AI on me and I wasn't ready for it was this summer, when I had to teach kind of a one-off music history for a student. And I had a series of questions that I once used where I asked students to just sort of read the textbook, and it was intentional. I wanted the questions to show them what I thought the pertinent information was that they really needed to take out of the text, because we overburden them with information in that class. That's just the nature of it. Well, I gave her the book questions I've always used, and clearly she had answered every single one of them with AI, because boy, her answers went way more in depth than I was even asking for. It was crazy. Pulling up composer in a couple of cases, I'm honest telling you, composers I hadn't even heard of. I mean, it had gotten into, you know, just really the weeds on some of these answers. I was like, this ain't right. But I also realized I'm ready to get rid of those questions, because it was things like which is paraphrase, which is parody. And I'm showing for myself, it doesn't matter. I understand the concept. I just can't remember the labels. And what I've really got to get to is more of that. What do you do with this knowledge? You know, and AI, the tool, AI is not going away. It's like our poor math teachers that had to figure out how to teach math when calculators showed up 30 years ago or whatever. You know, so anyway, I guess what I'm after is I had my own moment of recognizing that just the raw factual knowledge that we're shoving down students' throats, nobody remembers all of that. And AI is merely the tool which we will pull that back out. And really what matters is what we understand about all of that and how we relate it across the rest of history. So to me, it's more about rewriting the assignments. And it's not that knowledge acquisition. It's the analysis. And then if we make students bring it back to something personal, well, then AI is never going to get that right. So anyway, that's my anecdote.
AI is extremely bad at art history. So yeah, just really, really bad at it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a really great weekend. Enjoy the cooler weather.
Thanks a lot.
And the
Appreciate it.
beautiful trees. Thank you,
Thank
Rachel.
you, Rachel.